Thank you!
You're welcome!
Hey, what's up guys? I wanted to do a quick commentary on the Wii U video since I'm not going to be doing a making of or a behind the scenes for that video. I thought I could at least show you basically the thinking involved in making this, because there's a lot of visual effects that are very non-obvious. I mean, obviously there's the fragmented effect, which is pretty cool, but it's just one of several in this video. So let's go ahead and check some of these out. For instance, the first effect in this video is the first shot. It's stabilized. And just before it goes into the flash cuts, and then she's bummed because it's raining outside. You know, she can't go play in the field with her friends like she's 7 and not 24. Anyway, so the first shot is stabilized. I just used Warp Stabilizer and I think After Effects because I wanted to use Rolling Shutter Repair because I was just kind of doing it handheld and you get those micro shakes. Rolling Shutter is an artifact from DSLR cameras and the sensors that they have because they record from the top down, and so each image isn't necessarily captured at once. It's captured over a micro fraction of a moment. And so you get a little bit of skew if the camera is moving any. And Rolling Shutter Repair, what that does is it just kind of corrects that. It kind of makes the image straight and not skewed. And so once you do that, then you can take Warp Stabilizer and then stable the image itself. Because a lot of the time I've found that when Warp Stabilizer just tries to stabilize it, it can correct the skew a little bit, but most of the time it just goes all over the place and looks super wacky. So that's just one pro tip to like help correct that. And I did that for a few shots. For instance, later in this video, the TV sweep right here. Obviously that effect is pretty sweet. Here. I'll just show you the final effect. You notice how it's kind of smooth, and I couldn't really help it. If you look at the top corner there, it starts wiggling a little bit, and this was pretty much the best I can do. But I was able to stabilize it for the most part using Warp Stabilizer and correct it with Rolling Shutter. I did that first. Okay, and let's go on to the second shot that I thought was really sweet, and that would be the rain right here. I'll just play it real quick. Alright, and you'll notice how the water is actually splashing up off of the ground. And what I did here was that, here, I'll actually just show you the original shot. As you can see, it wasn't raining. It was just kind of ironic because it rained the entire time we were there until I started shooting this video. Which, by the way, I literally thought of the idea for this video about 20 minutes before I started shooting. So that's how last minute this video was when it comes down to it. Anyway, so it had been raining earlier that morning, so the ground was fortunately wet. That helps sell the effect. If it wasn't raining, just spray the hose on the ground, get the ground a little bit wet. And what I did was I used Trapcode Particular in After Effects, and I just made these particles rain down really quickly, and I made a ground plane. I kind of positioned it to where the ground was, and I made it so that whenever the particles passed through that ground plane, a second action happened in that other particles splashed outwards in that exact spot. And with some tweaking, you can make it really fast and really small, and it makes it look like a raindrop splash, which is pretty cool. So the TV effect right here. This is literally a second shot later. This isn't on screen at all. As you can see from the before and after, if I go to that part, I'm literally just standing in front of the TV with nothing on it, just kind of waving my hand around, thinking that that might show up in the final image. I basically just plugged in a Wii into my TV later, and I just set my camera in front of the TV and just recorded it. No fancy software or hardware needed, just literally my camera in front of the TV recording. And what I did was I took that into After Effects and I used the corner pin tool to basically make it a perfect rectangle. Took all the angleness out of it, and then I pre-comped that and then used the corner pin again to put that onto the TV screen so it's at the right angle and perspective, basically. So, and then the last trick I did here was I set the opacity of that layer to just like 90%, just enough so that you can see the little highlights coming through here and over here, so that it's not just an image. Some of the highlights that are bouncing off the TV normally kind of come through, and because it's a black screen, that's all that really comes through. As you can see here, it's just some of the lights, this big light over here, and I ended up not coming through at all. Yeah, so she sits down, and then looking up here, that's obviously just optical flares, nothing special about that. Alright, here's the juicy part of the video. This is my favorite effect that I've ever done. And the reason being, obviously, is because it's awesome. So, let me tell you what I did. As you can see, this is just a regular Wii sitting there on the ground, and I got a plate of the Wii not being there so I could obviously cut it out whenever it's here. And this whole thing is just an animated image of several images put together, stitched together, sort of thing. And what I did was I bought a $2 model off of TurboSquid.com of the regular Wii, and it ended up working perfectly because the texture on it works well enough when it's fractured. And what I did was I took it into 3ds Max and I fragmented it using Rayfire Fragmenter, and I fragmented it into like 900 pieces, and I saved that as an OBJ model, which is just a 3D model that 3D programs can use. And I took that into After Effects, which then I used a plugin called Element 3D from Video Copilot. And if you've seen my videos before, I've used it a couple times, and I rave about it, whatnot. It's nice because I get to use a program I already know and not a program I barely know, like 3ds Max. So what I did was I positioned the intact, all the fragments are put together like a big puzzle piece, and I arranged that to where it's kind of perfectly on where the original Wii was, but I didn't have it actually showing. I only masked it in once it started fragmenting itself, because that's just an animation I did using the animation engine. And as you can see, there's lots of nice shadows inside there. Element doesn't do nice shadows normally, but what it does do is it does ambient occlusion, which is just darkness calculated by how close objects are to each other. And because these are all fragments really close, the inside is going to be really dark and the outside is going to be, you know, normal brightness. So I just cranked that up to 11, and it looks pretty nice. I mean, that's how the shadows would be rendered out using Rayfire or ray tracing anyway. And so I just kind of had it assemble up in the air like this, and this is when I used a separate instance of Element 3D of the exact same model in their animation form here. And so you may notice that you don't actually see it change from, it's right here to here. It actually changes from two different models, and I changed the texture a little bit so it kind of gets a little bit more black. And then it comes spinning down to the ground here, and if you look carefully, the Wii U starts popping up, but these fragments aren't actually forming the Wii U. It's just because there's a lot of motion blur and it's so quick, it just kind of shows there. What I did was I used the original Wii and I just made it black colored, and I turned it on its side and in the same general orientation as the Wii U, and I then masked it away as the fragments started falling down. So it looks like it's actually falling into place as the Wii U, even though it's not. And then of course you got the cables kind of fading back into place. I didn't really want to do anything special with that. They just kind of unceremoniously fade in. So yeah, this effect is actually pretty simple. If I show you the original and what happened here, if we just play this, you'll see that she just drops it, and then it cuts to a separate shot of her holding the gamepad for the Wii U, which I almost actually just left as is, but I had a little bit of extra time, so I decided to make it a little bit fancier by actually animating it in, as you can see here, with a little bit of a mosaic filter, kind of making it look digitized, as I just kind of animated this just still image across the screen, so it looks like it actually kind of digitizes out of nowhere. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Next shot was obviously this sweet sweeping shot. A little wonky, but in the moment it's kind of hard to notice. And then this shot, you may notice, is also screen replaced. The screen in the background is that same shot as the previous scene, but I had to motion track it in because if you look at the original, the background is actually flickering, and that's just due to the fact that the TV is, with the shutter speed of the camera, you get some flickering going on. And I deprioritized it. If it came down to it and I didn't have enough time, I was going to leave it in, but I ended up having enough time to replace it. So that's what I did. And I framed it up, or I timed it up perfectly with the original so that it's all right, but just without the flickering, and it looks nice. So yeah. And that's pretty much the end of the video. Obviously just more optical flares here instead of the actual text. It was my friend Jimmy Wong who actually did the voice, so props to Jimmy for doing that. And he also advised me on how to actually make it sound more godlike by just kind of adding a little bit of reverb and actually duplicating the layer and offsetting it ever so slightly, just to kind of make a bit of a echoey effect. So thanks, Jimmy. And yeah. For those who don't know, the girl in this video, her name is Jenna, and she is my girlfriend of the last almost 2.5 years. We've been dating a while. My buddy Rob Scallon made the music for this video. He literally scored it. I gave him a rough cut early on, and I gave him a little bit of direction on what I kind of wanted it, and I just left the rest to him to make. So check out his channel. He makes awesome music. Rad dude. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this style of video. I'm going to try to do more of these for other videos in the future because it's really hard to make full-scale content, whereas something like this is a little bit easier to do. So I can have more time to do this sort of thing. So I hope you enjoyed it, and take care.